Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When it comes to home and auto insurance, it's important to have the right coverage from a company and an agent you can trust. Someone who will help you properly protect the people and things you love most. So if the unexpected happens, you and your family can rest insured. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. We have a great guest today. I have known her almost the whole time I've been at Farm Bureau. I got here a little bit before she arrived here at Farm Bureau. So really excited for our listeners to get to meet Fran today if they've never met her. And I think this is a good conversation we had.
Yeah, you guys have a lot in common. I thought me and Fran had a lot in common from our farming background. Then I found out all these things today.
Yeah. We're both toppers, and you'll learn more in the conversation.
Teaser. So. Well, without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. All right, how is everybody?
Doing good. How are you, Fran?
Oh, just living the dream one day at a time.
Yeah, did you have a good weekend?
Oh, yeah, busy, always.
What did you get going on this past weekend?
I helped clean the cattle barn.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
That's always fun. We didn't have a 4-H event or a cattle show or a rabbit show, so we cleaned the cattle barn. So
how many kids you got now?
3 boys.
3 boys. Well,
10,
that's fun.
4, and almost 18 months.
Excellent. Yeah, I was right before we hit record. I was telling y'all about my daughter cheering her first college game. She is a cheerleader at EKU at Eastern Kentucky. So it was quite surreal. It's weird when you remember your daughter cheering her first little league football game when she was 5, and then boom, she's in college cheering. So it's pretty cool. It's been quite a journey, but it was a wild thing to see. It was neat, seeing your kids succeed is pretty cool. So that was
full circle.
That's kind of my weekend. Yeah.
You really didn't cry?
No, I didn't. I'm not really a crier.
Me neither.
But it was surreal is the thing.
She's definitely not a crier, Matt.
Seeing her cheer high school, that's I don't want to say everybody can cheer at high school, but sort of in a way, But this is a little more selective. You got to make a team, got to get asked to do it at a college level. So it was pretty cool to see her do it, and she had to do a few stunts that, frankly, I don't think she was even allowed to do in college because of just different levels. They're not allowed to do certain things, and they were pretty wild. And she hit them for the most part. She only had one time she kind of came down.
She's still the tumbler.
Yeah, no, she tumbles a little bit, but mostly stunts. She's like a elite stunner, I would say. So she's the girl up in the air. They do in high school, you can only two layers of a pyramid, where she was the third layer in college.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
They throw her up, and she has to land on a whole other kid.
Wow. My knowledge is from the movies Bring It On, so 1 through 8.
It's called a tippy. She's the tippy, not a mid. So I learned that. That's a new thing.
How cool. And they got a dub.
And they won. Yes, Eastern won. I've never, I went to Western Kentucky, so a lot of my
Go Tops
classmates are going, what are you doing with this colonel? But that's where she wanted to go, and it's been really good for her so far. And so, yeah, I've never actually been to an Eastern game or really any Eastern
My
stuff.
husband went to Eastern, so we have that rivalry in our own home. So.
Yeah, I guess we'll have that a little bit in ours now. My wife and I are both Western people, so we'll have a daughter to give us grief, or give her grief. So.
Oh yeah.
What'd you do this weekend? What you got?
What did we do? Well, we are just traveling the West Kentucky Parkway every single Friday. My brother is a senior this year, so he is the end cap of the Laurent kids. So we go to, and he goes to Caldwell County, which is in Princeton, not close to Springfield for anyone that knows that geography. So we drive the West Kentucky Parkway every single Friday. My husband loves it. Loves it. Just like having another brother. But anyway, so we went to watch him play at Graves County, which in case anyone cares, that is way the heck heck over there.
That is
That's a big
all the
rivalry,
way over
isn't it?
there.
Graves, not with us.
Okay.
No, ours is more Crittenden. Little small town schools, you know. But yeah, so played with them for a half and then kind of got our butts kicked in the second. But, you know, par for the course. And then Saturday we did St. Dominic Turkey Supper, which is a thing when you live in central Kentucky. There are 800 turkey suppers apparently for all the Catholic churches. So we hit one this weekend and basked in the nice weather, did a little dove hunting. It was fun. Yeah, it was a good weather weekend, which is good because I think it's about to get hot again. So
Yeah, we were at the game, and it was, about all you want for the first time one of these games. So thank you, Fran, for being here today. We really appreciate. How long you been at Farm Bureau? How did you come a Farm Bureau employee all those years ago?
Yeah, I've been here 12 years as of April. So yeah, my role has kind of changed and evolved over the 12 years I've been here. When I came in as the commodity specialist, I was the first ever in that position. So just learning kind of what they wanted my position to be. Started doing a lot of livestock stuff. That was my background, coming in from my previous career as a 4-H agent and also having 2 degrees in agriculture, having a long love of agriculture growing up. Grew up on a farm, diversified operation, showed cattle all my life, raised rabbits, and but Farm Bureau seemed to be a good fit for me, and it's been evolving over 12 years. Like I said, I started doing livestock, going to a lot of livestock meetings, working with the different commodity groups, and then kind of involved into helping with the Certified Farm Market program. More so on the office side, I helped when we launched our first Facebook page and did a lot of the behind the scenes on the marketing and advertising stuff when Kara Keaton worked here at Farm Bureau. And then when Kara chose not to continue on with Farm Bureau, I have been coordinating the Certified Farm Market program for 10 years as of this summer. So we've seen a lot of changes and a lot of growth in the program, and it's been exciting to be part of, and especially with Renee and I working together as we celebrate our 30th anniversary next year in 2025. So really exciting things coming along with the Kentucky Farm Bureau Certified Farm Market program.
I was going to bring up, it's an anniversary coming up very good.
Oh, yeah. We're very excited.
Okay, so talk about, and I don't know, this might be a tough question for you, but livestock's your background, and me and my husband kind of argue back and forth on this. He does not work in ag, and so ag is what he gets to passionately do on the side. I live, eat, sleep, and breathe it, and every now and then I told somebody that the other day, like, my husband will turn on a podcast or something. I'm like, buddy, I have heard about the cattle market for 24 straight hours of text and phone calls. I just need a break. And we laugh about that. Is it kind of nice doing livestock as your personal passion and then having this farm market that's just something all new you got to learn? Or like, how did that feel when you made that transition over? Was it a weird transition at first?
At first, it wasn't like kind of black and white. Like it really was kind of a vague transition. And I still, in some days, it just depends on what life throws at me that day at work. But I still do a lot of livestock related things with my markets because they're so diversified. Especially in the last 5+ years, we've seen the biggest growth in our meat markets. And so working with those people to understand how to market their beef. COVID was a big example of that. A lot of people were looking for a local source meat product. And so we got a lot of inquiries that year. I was home pregnant with my second son, and I took a lot of phone calls. Hey, I've always raised cattle, but I've never processed them. I'd really like to get into this, explain how this works. Working with them, understanding USDA processing versus custom processing, the regulations with that. My background is a beef cattle operation, but also have a master's degree in ruminant nutrition and meat science. So that kind of knowledge I hadn't really got to use much. And so I've been able to apply that to my diversified markets that are thinking about getting into that, or maybe had done it on a very small scale and are looking to expand. Since the tobacco buyout, our markets or our farms in Kentucky have really diversified. And so I even see that personally at home on my own farm on how we've diversified our operations. So, that's kind of neat to be a part of and be that resource for those producers that are looking to that. A couple weeks ago, I had an opportunity to visit with another farmer that was looking into getting into produce that, had been a traditional Kentucky farm, tobacco, livestock, had some grow crops. And, just seeing that out in the States is really enriching for me to see how people are adapting to the times and the changes. And I get to be a small part of that. So that's really neat for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and adding to that, I think your courthouse and everyone thinks cattle, but your McCall side.
Oh, yeah.
We'll say, what do you guys farm now besides just cattle? I think that's something I didn't even realize till we started working together, and I
Sure.
realized what all David's family does, and now you guys get to do and raise your boys in.
Sure. So I guess I'll back up a little bit. I grew up as Fran Courthouse. I grew up showing Shorthorn cattle. Everybody knows the girl from Oldham County that showed cattle. I'm a fifth generation Shorthorn breeder. My family started with them in 1898 in Iowa when my dad's great-great-grandparents settled in Iowa from Germany, and they got into Shorthorns. So I traveled the country. It wasn't anything for us to go to 25 to 30 shows a year, whether it's our national shows to county fairs to regional North American State Fair. Beef Expo were always part of my life growing up. We also sold a lot of purebred cattle for the operation that my dad worked and managed for 25 years there in Oldham County. My parents are from the Midwest. They moved here in 1980 when they got married, and they lived in the same plot for 25 years, managing their Shorthorn operation, did raise corn for silage, hay for the cattle, and then also baled a lot of hay for horses in the area. So the owners of the farm, it was over 500 acres, at Ned and Nina Bonney in Oldham County, they had thoroughbreds. They steeplechased, also did eventing, did some show jumping as well. So horse hay was something that was very real and dear to my heart growing up, because that's where I learned how to drive a tractor when I was a teenager. My dad didn't put us on their equipment when we were young. Like, he wanted us to be mature, and he got permission, and that's when I learned how to bale hay. My dad broke his leg when I was freshman in college, and so that summer I went home and I round baled a lot that summer just to help out. And so then fast forward, I went to college at Western Kentucky University, got my degree in agriculture with emphasis in animal science. We're big Western fans, me and Matt. We got that connection when I first started here at the Bureau. Then I went on to UK and did my master's in ruminant nutrition and meat science, like I mentioned earlier, and also coached the livestock judging team. That was a big component of my life and molded me into what I am today. That public speaking, that evaluating, defending your position. And then that was an opportunity I got to do and coach that collegiate team. And then my husband, I guess that was what you asked about, Renee. David and I met when we were 12. He joined the Shelby County Beef 4-H Club. And he was just, David forever. Him and his sister started showing cattle, and they'd always had interest in cattle and livestock, and were kind of our neighbors. And David started going to junior nationals with us in different spots across the country. He would start gutting into Shorthorns and bought some Shorthorn cattle. And so he would go with my family, and we'd go for 6-7 days, depending on wherever the junior nationals were. And everyone would be like, who's that? Who's that? Oh, that's David. He's our neighbor. He likes to show too. And so he comes with us. His mom and dad can't come, so he comes with us. And so fast forward, we were just friends forever. And then when I was in grad school and David was finishing up at Eastern, I was like, maybe I should ask him out on a date. Well, I was too embarrassed, so I sent him a text message and asked him if he wanted to have dinner. And so anyway, and funny stories, we've been together for, I guess it's been 15 years now, and tomorrow's actually our anniversary, 13 years.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, so
cool.
That's the long about right. But David grew up on a diversified operation. They had always farmed about 1,000 acres of row crops, primarily in Oldham County. And they always raised commercial cattle, the farm, and then David had his purebred cattle. His dad and him got into red polls about 1998. And so they've had shorthorns, red polls, and then the commercial herd for all that time when David kind of got more interested in that in 4-H. And so grain farming was not really my cup of tea when, growing up. My dad just raised enough corn at the farm. He managed to make silage and feed the cow chow all winter. But we never harvested any grain and put it in a silo or marketed any grain or soybeans, through the commodity market. So it's been a real learning curve for me, being married to a grain farmer. So sometimes that's a heated topic of conversation because, prices are up and down, the market's up and down. So it's always interesting dinner conversation, we'll say, about the row crops.
I just think it's a lot of perspective. And I fall into the same thing you do to an extent. I grew up showing hogs, so everyone's like, oh, Renee's a hog girl. In the real world of hogs, we were showing hogs. We were raising show pigs. We were not commercial hog operators. So really, if you're going to talk about something on the commercial side that I grew up and knew, it was cattle. And a lot of people didn't know that for a long time. And then I jumped into row crop for a few years and really, really had to sink in when I was selling seed. And so I don't know. I always want to let people know that about you, Fran, because I feel like everyone's like, oh, Fran's a cattle person. Oh, and they've got rabbits for the kids. And I feel like people miss this part of your life that is like, it's planting season, like, David's not here. It's harvest season. Like, Fran's going to run a grain cart if she has to. It's just another side that I think brings credibility. We'll say that because I think sometimes we can grow up in row crop country like I did and you didn't do it. Or you can grow up in quote unquote cattle country and you're raising your kids on a row crop farm too. So I think it's just cool to have the credibility and the all around kind of perspective.
Yeah, I spend sometimes my nights and weekends helping move equipment or filling the planter or running this and that from the field in the fall during harvest. We just started harvesting about a week and a half ago. We actually bought a new farm 2 years ago next month, and so we're harvesting the grain at our house first. So we've shelled some corn that we sell directly to Excel Equine here in Louisville. We sell it at a premium for horse feed. Horse feed has to be very clean, and so we strive to keep our corn very clean when we're harvesting it, and that way we get a premium for that product. And then a lot of our soybeans either sell on the river to Consolidated, or we haul them to Owensboro and they make them into soybean meal. So again, like you were saying, it's been a learning curve, and it really kind of keeps me humble, especially when I run across a lot of our farmers across Kentucky that have that diversified operation and understanding when not to call them or when they're busy or when they're not responding, because I live and breathe that every day at home. So yeah, it's definitely a learning process, but we do the best we can, and we all hope for a good harvest. That's right now.
Exactly.
Something neat in all of that. Something else we have in common. My anniversary is tomorrow also.
Yes, 20th. We do. I forgot I didn't know this. Yeah, we learned that a couple years ago, didn't we, Matt?
Let's talk about when I first started at Farm Bureau. I thought one of the neat things that we were asked to do as a video team is to cover and go to some of these certified farm markets. What a neat program. It's been around for a while. Again, we got an anniversary coming up. Rewind. When did it happen? How did it get started? What's some of the history of the program? And how many markets were there on year one, and kind of where are we today?
Yeah, so the program was started officially in 1996. At that time, Mark Haney was the chairman of the Horticulture Advisory Committee, and it was his vision to put together a statewide program for folks that marketed fruits and vegetables off their farm. So Fast forward to 29 years later, now we have every type of farming operation that you could think of that markets directly off their farm to the consumer. So we still have our traditional fruit and vegetable markets, but we also have expanded to year-round markets, seasonal markets like pumpkin patches this fall, to markets that have agritourism. We have our greenhouse growers that, specialize in annual perennials, trees, shrubs, whatever. In the spring, they might have, fall mums as well. A few of our markets do poinsettias as well. So a lot of diversity there in our greenhouse production. We've expanded a lot of high tunnel operations that can offer seasonal produce year round with those high tunnels. That's been a very important thing in Kentucky agriculture as we've expanded and diversified our operations, adding those high tunnels so we can have tomatoes in March or April earlier in the season, and also extend their growing season and also extend their income throughout. Let's see, what else have I forgotten, Renee? We have a lot of meat markets, like I mentioned earlier, beef, pork, lamb, some goat, not very much. A lot of value-added products, your jams, your jellies, your baked products, your baked goods. We have several markets that have wonderful bakeries. So if you're looking for a treat for your family or just to sit down and have a meal at one of our markets, a lot of them have added food, cafes. So that's it. It never ceases to amaze me, the enthusiasm and the willing to try new things that our markets and our Kentucky farmers have, and how they're just, really adapting to what their needs are in their communities. So we seem to have had a lot of growth in pumpkin patches this summer. I visited a lot of new ones this year, so that's exciting, especially in areas that have not had that for their families. So a couple weeks ago, I went and visited a new one in Fleming County, and they don't have a pumpkin patch in that area. So I think that's exciting for those kids and those families in that area, for them to be able to go out and do something as a family or take a school trip out there in that area.
Yeah, some of these markets have really thrived, obviously in fall season, but you go to some of these places, there's hundreds of cars. It's a weekend. I mean,
the festivals. Yeah.
It's really cool. I mean, we've gone to Gowrines, and we've gone out to Evans Orchard through the years for pumpkins and different things, and they're pretty innovative too. I think that these are high end markets. These are markets with things to do, not just go there and get a pumpkin and leave. I've got some games for the kids, and you're right, some good food. Get yourself a burger and some cider maybe or something like that. Really, just neat markets all over the state. So.
Evans is a great segue to my question. Actually, Gowrines too. So, Fran, we have such a diverse type of operations, of markets that are in there. Some call themselves true just markets, which I think the word just is doing them a disservice. But they say, we don't do the agritourism. We don't have the playthings. You come to get produce and product and things like that, and you leave. And then you've got the ones that have both. The agritourism and not. But my favorite part is we still have members like Evans that have been members this whole time that some would think have surpassed any need for a program to help them. Why is the Certified Farm Market Program good for all? What are the benefits of being a member?
Sure, that's a good question. I get asked a lot, especially with our potential members or our new members that are still getting used to what the member benefits that we have. I guess the biggest thing for me that I see as a coordinator is the networking with each other. And, sometimes it's hard to ask those questions to others about, well, what do you do about ticketing, or what do you do about this liability or your hay rides? How do you do the schedule for that? Do you just do them continuous loop, or do you have them at every 15 minutes? Or, that kind of question, who do you ask that? And the best thing to do is to ask someone that's had that experience under their belt. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I see is them learning from each other. And, some are more willing to share than others, but others that, especially like the ones you mentioned earlier, or the Janet Dennisons, or the Mark Haneys, or the Bill Jacksons, or any of those people that have been doing this for 100 years plus. Many of our markets have been in business for over 100 years. We've had several anniversaries the last couple of years that we've been participating. Those people really know what they're doing. And, if they're down in Bowling Green, they'd be happy to talk to somebody in Georgetown and help them with whatever problem. I remember, I'll never forget this story. A couple of years ago, there was a gentleman that his cider mill went down, and he couldn't figure out how to fix it. Well, he called up his other friend who also has a cider press. And, once he got finished for the day, he went down and helped him fix it. And that's the kind of people that I work for. And I see that camaraderie amongst each other. They're friends, but they're also colleagues that they can call upon each other. And so that's been a neat thing for me to interact and get to know our producers. Another member benefit, Renee, is our educational components of our program. We've always had an educational meeting. That's been around for, I think this is about the 14th year for our education meeting. It started before I started at Farm Bureau. And that's just an annual meeting. It's free to our members. They can come and learn about the topics that we find interesting that year. For example, this year we talked about basic website design, and we also talked about advanced website design. So kind of geared it towards the two different levels. We have a lot of diversity in our program, like I was saying earlier, so the folks that maybe haven't got to the point of having a website, how to set that up, or the basics of how to host a website. And then those folks that have been in business for a long time that, hey, maybe I need to go and look at my website, see what the content is, keep it relevant, keep it updated. We see that a lot, not just in agriculture, but everything, keeping that information current. So those were topics that we talked about this year. Estate planning was another big topic that we had part of our program, and that kind of, it wasn't made, the announcement wasn't made at that point, but this farmland transition that Renee has been working on a lot, Matt, that kind of segued us into that discussion later in the spring. And that's something that's really near and dear to our farmers' hearts, and and even looking at my own family, my husband and I have 3 sons, and we want to have an opportunity for them to take over if they want to. And so that's really important for our farm market members as well. And I see that working with them. We have different generations working in the operations. There might be even 2 or 3 generations currently working, and helping them navigate that when one generation passes away or wants to retire. So those are some of the things that we focused on this year. We also expanded, it's been about 5 years now, our regional events. We started with our first one down at Metcalf Greenhouses in Hopkinsville, and we've expanded to doing those 2 a year, Matt. We focus on having one in November after the busy October season is over, and then also one in February, kind of gearing up before the growing season in spring. So at that meeting, we focus on one particular market. We'll have a tour and a meal at one place in the state, one of our markets that will host us, and then we focus on doing a roundtable discussion. And it might be planning for the next season. It might be talking about labor. It might be talking about agritourism, or whatever the focus might be. We've done several of those now, and people seem to really enjoy it. We've had one of the largest one we ever had this February down at Mammoth Cave Transplants, and people got to tour Janet's operation, and it was really neat to see. Renee was there with me too, and it was a great attendance, and we had really good discussion with our members.
Yeah, I think the regional events are neat to me, and I don't know if you guys have gotten to go to one yet with the communications team. We need to get you to one. It brings out the markets maybe that don't want to drive all the way to Louisville, don't really feel quite ready to go on the farm market tour yet. Sometimes it's, or they're even potentials. We've seen a couple potential markets come to those regional meetings, and just that it's easy to say we're a welcoming group, we're an exciting group, everyone's very nice, but it's different when you feel it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think it's almost like a taste test. And I've kind of started pitching that to some of the county presidents that are like, okay, it's coming to my area. My APD told me about it. Our field guy told me about it. What is it even? I'm like, it's kind of like a farm market taste test for some of these smaller ones that aren't ready to dive. Come on and give us a try. It's somebody real close. You drove like less than an hour sometimes, eat a nice meal, talk to some people. I think it's very important. I'm all about, and Fran knows this, and Fran does this herself, meet the farms where they're at, meet the farmers where they're at. I love our big events, and we have fantastic big events, but it just means so much to people when you get to their farm gate, when you get to their market. And so I think those regional events are bringing that big event vibe, you know, that feel, but to almost close to their farm gate as we can get. So I applaud Fran. She's done a great job with that, and it's tough to think of a topic worthy of a roundtable because you got to have people willing to talk about it. And so we always toss around a lot of ideas, but my gosh, if someone takes better notes than Fran, I would love to see it because that girl takes notes. I don't know when. I try to hope it's not while she's driving, maybe at every stoplight, but there are notes out of this world about what she finds out while she's on the road. And she whips them out and nobody can read them but her, but we do it. So
yeah, my handwriting's not the best. And maybe my spelling still needs work. But
okay.
That's why we have Margaret.
Yeah, I've always found it pretty. It's neat, the camaraderie. I mean, these markets really worked well together. I mean, they, in some form, kind of competitors in some sense. I mean, for what their businesses are, but they don't really act that way, which is really pretty cool. I think you're right. Everybody wants everybody to succeed, everybody to have a good fall, you know, and do their best. And that's always been a neat thing to kind of see with these tours and these different events. They kind of come together. And
the farm market tour is one of the things that I really enjoy the most. Planning them, executing them, traveling with our members, and just listening to their conversations that they have with each other. And then they're always looking for something. They might not know what they're looking for, but for example, I heard one of our markets that just went with us in Texas was on your podcast a couple of weeks ago. Kathy Otis from Jackson's Orchard was talking about the signage. That was her takeaway in Texas about how they needed to work on their signage. And, you know, she probably didn't know that before going on the tour, but she saw such good examples. And you know, that might have been part of my doing because I seek out markets that are good takeaway markets to visit when we're doing these out-of-state tours. But I thought that was really neat listening to her interview on that podcast about how much she took back from her trip to Texas with the farm market program. And so that just, you know, it's rewarding, Matt, to be able to make an impact on these markets and these businesses.
So this is coming out in October. Yeah, I'm a customer and I want to hit a market. What kind of things can I find out in markets right now at this time of year?
So
what's the best
first
stuff
of all,
out there?
if you're looking for a market, you can always go to our website.
I'll look at her. She's already doing a plug.
KYFV.com/certified. And that's also available on our Kentucky Farm Bureau app. That's the best kept secret about Farm Bureau is the app. And but you can get step-by-step directions to any of our over 163 markets, Matt, across the Commonwealth. And you can also search by products. So say you're looking for that perfect pumpkin in October, or even apples are still prominent this time of year. And we also have mums and corn shucks, and maybe it's just, you know, want to go take the kids and play on the farm. You can look for the agritourism. But, you know, we have a lot to offer across Kentucky. So whether you're in East Kentucky or West Kentucky or Central Kentucky, there's a market near you to find, Matt. So,
all right, let's flip it. I'm a market and I'm interested.
Sure.
Tell us the new enrollment date. Fran is proud of this.
Yes.
We have moved enrollment to be more market friendly.
Yes, for 28 years, we have opened enrollment in October. And I've always wondered why. So Renee and I were putting our thinking caps on this year, planning for our 30th anniversary. And I looked at her and I said, Renee, let's move it to November. I said, people are less busy in November, Renee. They've survived pumpkin season and Halloween. And she's like, why not, Fran? So Renee and I, we have moved it forward. The advisory committee's good. The leadership's good. So November 4th is our enrollment opening day for 2025 for all of our market members. For $100, you can sign up to be part of our Kentucky Farm Bureau Certified Farm Market Program through December 31st. And then after December 31st, as of January 1, it will go to $150. Normal enrollment will go through January 31st. And then if anyone needs to apply after that time, they can just contact me directly, and we'll work with that market.
And I always mention this part, and Fran does a fantastic job with enrollment, but we take people throughout the year, of course, but my goal is it's so easy to sell the $100 because we do one Facebook boost in your geographic area, and we've already, that $100 is paid for itself. You come to our education meeting, that $100 is paid for itself. The further into the year you go, you're just losing some of those options. So the education meeting has already happened, or the regional meeting's already happened. We've already signed up for this tour. We know the networking piece is huge, but for our new markets, that's kind of why we set such a hard enrollment date, is if you want to get that full benefit of the program, that really kicks off February 1 and goes throughout the year. So I don't want anyone to be dissuaded throughout the year. If you're interested, come on, we're excited. But we do that because if you're enrolled at that point, you get the full year of benefits. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that we hadn't really mentioned is the insurance benefit as well. A lot of people find us because of the insurance company. They're trying to get coverage for X, Y, and Z, whatever they're trying to do at the farm. And so, here lately, I've had a lot of pumpkin calls and folks that are either opening up or they've been in business for a few years but hadn't checked out Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company. So I get to meet a lot of these folks because they're needing coverage, but they need to be enrolled in the farm market program to get coverage through the insurance company. So that's one thing that we didn't talk about, business owners policy, which is called a BOP in the insurance world. And so I know enough about insurance to be dangerous, but I'm not an agent. I don't give insurance advice. I just wanted to make that clear. But that's another benefit, Renee, that we hadn't mentioned yet, and that's also a big one. It's a big one that's very needed at our markets, and we need to protect our farm market owners and our farmers and make sure that they're covered.
You bet. Where else can people find? I mean, you have Facebook pages and all kinds of...
Yes, so we have our Facebook page. I mentioned our website already, the app as well. Our Facebook page is very good for looking for the diversity of our markets, pictures of the different markets, things that are offering this time of year, like we were talking about all the wonderful things that fall brings. Fall is just an exciting time, especially on the farm. You're harvesting your crop, whether you're in the row crop business or if you're looking for that fall decoration that a lot of people are so popular, love to decorate, their porches or their mailboxes, and get ready for fall. We're recording in September, but, the first day of fall is this week. So it's an exciting time. A lot going on at the farms this time of year.
Excellent. Yep.
Well, Fran, I cannot thank you enough. We laugh every time we get certain guests on here. I'm like, God, is it really taking us this long to get them here? And Fran elected to push her markets first, which I think there is nothing more Fran than that.
Right,
is every time me and Matt said, oh, we should probably do something farm market, she would send us a market name instead of herself. So you have gotten to meet her members already, but you finally got to meet Fran. So we just cannot thank you enough for walking downstairs and meeting with us.
No problem. It was my pleasure to talk about the folks that I get to work with on a daily basis. And I'm not in the office all the time. I'm out visiting my markets. And fall is probably one of my busiest times visiting our markets. Fall and spring. Summer, they're kind of busy doing their thing, so I don't see them as much. And we have our tours and other summer events. But, it's my pleasure to advocate for our farm markets and work with this great group of people. And we're excited about our 30th anniversary kickoff in December at annual meeting and celebrating our market program all next year in 2025.
Yep. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for being here. Happy anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you listeners. Be sure to subscribe to our larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life, and we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.